Well, security is tight at the Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi Sports Complex at Ulundi, northern KwaZulu-Natal, where the funeral service of IFP founder is currently taking place. And Prince Mangosuthu died last weekend at his Wapindangena home.
Let's welcome our SABC 1 viewers on this special category, official funeral category 1. Former presidents and dignitaries from the African continent and abroad are expected to attend the funeral.
And President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the eulogy. We now cross to our colleagues Blaine Herman and Bongiwe Zwane. A very good morning to you, Blaine and Bongiwe. Thank you so much for joining us. Just give us a preview of what you see there.
A very good morning to you, Simpiwe, and we're coming to you live from Ulundi at the Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi Regional Stadium now. This is where the funeral service of the late AmaZulu Prime Minister Blaine, some would know him, as well as the founder of the IFP, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi, is going to be held.
It is about the magnitude of the moment, isn't it, Bongiwe? Good to be with your better mind here today, especially on a day like today. It is this day in history, if you will. And we've seen the outpouring of lamentations. Bongi and I have been fortunate enough to be eyewitnesses to history over the past couple of years, and this moment is no different. Why? Because the Prince of Wapindangena is being laid to rest. The lamentations, the passionate expression of sorrow and grief. You've heard it throughout the week, and you're bound to hear it again. Why? Because people are saying their final goodbyes and paying their last respects.
And Blaine, as they have said to us a number of times since we got here, Umuti omkulu uwile, a great tree has fallen. And you think about, to some people here, and his family, he was simply ushenge, he was simply, usogwalisa, and that's how they refer to him. You listen to Amabuto, they speak greatly of this particular man, and then you listen to the Anglican Church speaking about him being a dedicated member of the church, a very active one at that. You listen to stories coming from his foundation. They tell you what a dedicated servant he was. You listen to some of the children you and I were interacting with yesterday. They call him Umkulu, who used to buy us sweets whenever we bumped into him. So certainly a lot of faces to the man.
Yeah. The sense of loss is no doubt palpable, and you can expect that, isn't it? Because people are, I guess, still trying to process what Prince Buthelezi meant to them and what his passing now means to them. What does it mean in terms of the trajectory of this nation, South Africa? And as you said, it's heartwarming when you hear from the children. You assume that he was well known in terms of the elders, but when the children recognize that, when I used to bump into Prince Buthelezi, he used to give me a 10 rand, he used to give me a 20 rand. It's endearing, and it talks to the personality of the man.
And Blaine, one of the things that is also interesting to talk about, listening to various IFP leaders as well, is how his legacy is contested. Is how there are, of course, those who are saying that while there are many faces to the man, for us it brings back painful memories. There are those who are saying, yes, leaders have mixed legacies, like you and I possibly. So how then do you begin to have a conversation about who he was? And I suppose one of the people that knows him very well is our next guest, who really is somebody that's worked very closely with Ushenge, and that is Senzo Mfaela. That's Ubab Senzo, who's coming to talk to us, and he's the chairperson of his foundation. And it's interesting, Baba, that we are speaking this morning, and a lot of people are talking about Ushenge in his many faces, many hats, and many recollections. I wonder what are the, for the foundation today, what kind of recollections rather are you having?
Good morning to you and your listeners. There are not sufficient words to describe the emotions that are running through us who have worked with him in a day like this today. One of the key things I think I can start with is an appreciation of the response of South Africa to the man I know. In all the time that I've worked with him, not once has he referred to me as a comrade or a colleague. He's always referred to me as my son. And everything that has happened between us has happened in that context. I started working with him when I was very, very young. I was hardly 20 years old. And he taught me so much about commitment, about work ethic, where you put everything you have in everything you do. I remember when I started working with him, my office was a few blocks away from his. At about 10 o'clock at night, I'll be tempted to go home. And as I lock my office, I'll see his bodyguard sitting outside his office. And I'll quickly run back to my office to try to ensure that he goes home first before I did. The man worked with absolute commitment, and he gave his absolute all in everything he touched.
I think that would be the common refrain that you're bound to hear today. He gave it his all.
Yes.
He used a number of hats as well. I mean, he was the traditional prime minister of the Zulu monarch as well as the nation, the first Home Affairs Minister in democratic South Africa. He was appointed the traditional prime minister back in '54 by King Cyprian. Talk to us about the theme, he gave it his all, and how he worked all those different parts.
Look, when he is in a traditional function, you'll see him. He is there. When he deals with traditional issues, he is there with everything he has. There are no political considerations. There is nothing else that exists in the world. He's dealing with that. When he's in the political world, he is dealing with that. When he's at church, he sings, he performs all the rituals. I was, for instance, told a very interesting story by one of the Anglican reverends who grew up with him here, that they were so embarrassed when he was young. They knew him as their Inkosi. Now, when he came to church and he had to perform a ritual of washing their feet, and he performed it with such ease, because that's just who the man was. That he was a prince, that he was a prominent politician at church. Part of his duties was washing congregants' feet, and he did that with no reservations.
How does the foundation then begin to comprehend the various conversations that are being had about his legacy, especially those who are saying that for them, just his name alone invokes painful memories of the past?
Look, it comes with the territory. You either get involved and involve fully, and have the kind of criticism he gets, or you don't get involved fully. You watch your steps every day, wherever you go, and then you don't get criticism. He gets criticized in the church, he gets criticized in his traditional leadership role, he gets criticized in politics. We expect that. What is difficult to live with, it's unreasonable insults. Because it's one thing to criticize somebody, it's one thing to differ with somebody, but it's quite another to just wake up and insult a person. And he himself, he understood that. I think it was at his 90th birthday where he stood up and he said, look, in my journey, if I'm called upon to walk it again, I'll do things my way, the same way, but I want to apologize to all those who got offended by my commission and my omissions. And that was the measure of the man. And we knew that it came from deep from his heart, because he understood that you can't walk the path that he was doing and not offend people.
How much of his religion, the church, played a part in his outlook on life, especially when he used to take hits in terms of criticism as well? We know that his mother was very religious as well, Princess Magogo. He used to talk about the Psalms that she knew by heart. In particular, Psalm 91 was a favorite. Talk to us about how he married tradition and the church.
Well, that is the life of his people. For the majority of Zulu people, we had to learn to marry tradition and the church. And he reflected that in a very big way. For him, more than any other, I think there were two influences in terms of his religion: his mother and Nkosi Albert Luthuli. Because whenever the two of them had an opportunity to sit down, every discussion would start with a prayer. And if you look at what Nkosi Albert Luthuli did all his life, there were two themes: hope and faith.
Interesting.
So if you reflect on Nkosi Buthelezi's life, those two themes are central. He wouldn't allow himself to lose hope. He just wouldn't allow himself to lose faith. At a very difficult time, and he would pray and pray hard for solutions to come his way.
Baba, if you can wait, stick around with us. We want to continue our conversation, but we have a number of our colleagues out and about in this Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi Regional Stadium.